Hey guys, we're now live on Facebook, and I got Matt Bacak here. For you guys that don't know Matt's been marketing since 1999 online. I mean, even before they basically had the internet, nobody even knew what Microsoft was almost. And I got a chance to meet Matt a little over almost 2 years now. I think it's been at a ClickFunnels event with Russell Brunson. He was there, and me and him got a chance to link up. And it was one of those, just like, it was like, wow, it's like you actually exist, because me and Matt like have so much in common about like who we are as people and stuff like that. And, and how hard we work. And we just kind of connected on a whole different levels. And it was so interesting that Russell Brunson was just yesterday talking about, how Matt and his funnel and how he does marketing and some of the original stuff he learned from him. So Russell is one of the best marketers that are out there. Creating ClickFunnels and stuff like that, and him talking about Matt. Matt's responsible for some of the largest ClickBank offers that are out there, and has literally broken ClickBank, the website itself, for selling stuff, and they had to redo their whole website based on how much traffic Matt was able to assemble and bring into the marketplace. He's also I got a couple of my favorite books here Matt has written. So anytime I want to write copywriting or start working on any kind of project, I open those books and I start thumbing through the headlines and stuff like that he's written, because they're just, amazing. It's a compilation of some of Matt's best work that's put out there. So Matt is an amazing copywriter, understanding how to grow people's lists. I'm also a member of Matt's mastermind. So personally, he's a mentor to me. So I'm just honored I get a chance to talk to him a little bit about his entrepreneurial story a little bit today. And let's get inside Matt Bacak's head. So today, if you've got a question about any of this kind of stuff about business and growing your business online, or how to really brand yourself with marketing, it would cost you like 10 grand to get in front of this guy for the day, like no BS. So here's your opportunity. Fire away your questions on Facebook, guys. I'm also going to post a link below. So if you wanted to join us live on the webinar we have going right now, you guys can join us. So feel free. I'm going to post that link below. And Matt, man, I just want to start off firing away. So thank you for having me today and having this time together, because it's just an honor to have you on the show today, bro.
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate it. The opportunity to be here. I think we're gonna have some fun, and can't wait to answer whatever questions come our way. So fire away.
Yeah. So my first question for you, Matt, is like, how did you get started? One of the whole things about the Money Mindset Chronicles is, how did you get started as an entrepreneur? Where was that spark in you? Because, I mean, you and I come from a little bit of the same background, where we're not exactly the greatest school kids, as far as like being inside of a classroom. We both have struggled with some of the same different, I call them like superpowers. Some people call them learning disabilities. They're out there. But tell us a little about how you got started as an entrepreneur and kind of like your original path. Like, when's the first memory you have about going out and becoming an entrepreneur?
Well, that's a great question. And probably the first time, I mean, really thinking about it, it's kind of weird. I'm actually watching myself while I'm talking on Facebook, but really, I mean, I'm going to flip over so I don't stare at myself. It's distracting.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
That's weird. So this is a new platform. I'm glad that you've figured this out, because I'm really excited about it. But and it's flipping over to us. So I was watching that. I was like, wow, it just flipped over to me. So. But for me, it really was probably when I was about 12 years old. I remember I went to school. Everybody was making fun of me because my shoes, Nikes just came out. It was like one of the coolest things in the world. And we were going to Kmart. Walmart really wasn't a big thing I don't recall it being a big thing back then. I guess it was. But, we had a Kmart in our town. And, I just went to Kmart and got a crappy pair of shoes, because that's all we had in our budget. And so I bring that up because those pairs of shoes, I remember coming home and saying to my parents, like, hey, can I go get some shoes? Everybody's making fun of me. And my dad's like, you know what, just go out there and why don't you go make the money to do it, because we don't have the money. We were a low middle class family at the time. My dad has grown since then, thank God. But the reason I bring that up is because that was the moment when I had to make a decision to go out and do stuff. And I used to go door to door and selling stuff and, things like that. But the bottom line is that was the moment when I went out and I got a paper out and started delivering papers. But the cool thing is the transition from that. And this is kind of like the biggest mark in my mind was I would deliver. I was not just delivering papers, but I would go to people and I'd say, by the way, can I mow your grass? And so I would not just deliver papers, but because because I had a relationship, I had this little, booklet thing I had to, scratch off and hand to people after they paid me. And while I was up there collecting money, I would say, hey, by the way, can I mow your grass? And I didn't have enough time. I was playing sports and I was doing things. So what I ended up doing was I ended up going to the bus stop one day. One of the kids at the bus stop said to me, said, like, my dad won't give me any more money for baseball cards. I said, how much money do you need? And he told me. So I ended up paying him, it was like $5 an hour. I said, I'll pay you, I'm sorry, not $5 an hour. I'll pay you $5 a yard. I've got all these yards I need to get mowed. I said, I'll pay you $5 a yard. I was charging people $15 a yard. And so I was banking money. I would just go around, collect money. And so I had my first little operation at the time. So going around, delivering papers, and collecting money from people for the grass that the people at the bus stop kids. I turned the bus stop kids into lawn care into employees and making money from there.
So a couple of golden nuggets right there, guys. First of all, he figured out, he found the relationship with the clients, and number two, he looked how he could actually serve those clients more by giving them more services at that point. And then number three, he found other people to go do the work, right? And that enabled Matt to then have a business at that point. And how old were you when you did that?
About 12.
12. So you're like roughly like your daughter's age now.
Yeah, really. But I think there's a fourth thing. And the fourth thing is this, and I think about this a lot, is, and this is something I wouldn't say back then, but now looking back, when a buyer's in heat and they're going to spend more money at that moment of, a transaction. And what ended up, just like analyzing this, like I had no idea what I was doing. But if you think about this, I was collecting, this is like a thumb drive, but I was collecting. And I would rip off, and I'd rip the little pieces off and say, here's how much you paid, and, as a receipt. And as I was doing that, that's when I asked them for the next order, So it was interesting because, they already had their credit card out. They already had their wallet out. They already had their checkbook out. Most of the time it was the checkbook back then, that checkbook out to hand me the money. And at that moment, that's when I was like, oh, by the way, I can, mow your grass. And so that's something to think about. And if people, that's kind of like, at McDonald's, they ask for, want fries with that, or, now we got upsells. Now we've got, the opportunity for people to do stuff like that. But that very moment, when people are in that moment, because because you do have, one, the rapport that I had was a lot easier asking for the sale because of the rapport, and because I knew their kids' names, I knew their dogs' names, I knew everything. But it was also the ability to ask, while you had them there with their wallet or the checkbook out.
So let's fast forward a little bit. Has what you did originally changed from how you're making a living now? The same business model you used back then, can you see how the same thing you're actually doing today?
In a sense, if you think about it, in some sense, if you really think about this, when I was a kid, I was really the middleman. I was the middleman. I just collected money. So, on the lawn care business, the other one, I was just delivering papers. But if you think about it, actually sending emails is kind of like, delivering news and, getting stuff out there. I had subscriber base. Think about this. I had a subscriber base, and I grew that subscriber base. Because I did so well, I was able to, pick up some more, routes, paper routes. So the same thing happens in this. Is I'm still kind of delivering papers in a sense because, I have subscribers. I am able to, give news and give content out, or give, make offers out to people like I would back then. But the other side of it too is, if you think about the transaction that was happening, with the bus stop kids, my bus stop buddies, turning them into employees a little bit, but I was just kind of the middleman. So I had somebody else doing the work. And I was, I would go out and I would find the people, I would sell, and then from there. And the same thing happens today. Now, I don't do as much affiliate marketing as I used to do a couple of years ago, but in affiliate marketing, the same thing. All you are is a middleman in a transaction. So it is a lot alike. It is very similar. The more I think about it, nobody's ever, made me think back that long ago. But it is very.
That's why I do what I do.
Nice.
So you see how the original imprint in your mind about how you went out and made money is the same way you're going out and making money today. It's the same damn thing. And that's where I find with entrepreneurs, a lot of times, guys, is they don't even realize where it came from. I was interviewing and talking with a friend of mine the other day, and he started out collecting rocks and then selling them to like his neighbors and his friends and family. And he found something of value and he sold it out to them. And I asked him, is that any different from how you're making multi-millions today. He's like, no, I just never realized that. So pay attention to how it is. If you look at like your money mindset around like, when's the original time you started learning about how to make money, and in that mindset, moving it forward to where you're at today. And that's one of the biggest things. So Matt, what's one of the biggest things you would call, there's no failure in life. There's only feedback. What's one of the biggest unquote setbacks you've had in your career, being online and marketing and stuff like that you'd like to share, and let people know like that it's okay to fall down and get back up?
Yeah. I mean, I think, for the big, hell, every day, you get knocked down. And sometimes it's bigger, sometimes it's smaller, and you just got to charge through that. But probably one of the biggest ones for me is because, we did make so much money, the IRS kind of pays attention. And I came in with some stuff at the IRS. We had multiple different companies. We had a lot of employees, I had my own private airplane. I had all this crazy stuff. And one of the biggest mistakes, kind of looking back now, the older I get, when I was young, it was like, I had all these dreams of materialistic things of, getting all this crazy stuff and showing and proud and bragging about it and everything else. You see all these kids doing it now, and I'm just like, man, that was me, when I was in my 20s, now, because I've been doing this for over 17 years, it's like, man, I look back and that could have probably got me in a little trouble. And so, that's one thing is, and it did. It kind of, when you come into a position, a lot of people, hearing those terrifying words like I'm with IRS, Internal Revenue Service or whatever. But, that was a big thing that really, it shook my ground, shook my foundation in the sense of, hey, here I am going after the American dream, and I did it. I remember pinching myself that year saying, wow, we crushed it. I mean, we were, everything I was doing, I was touching, was turning into cash, everything. It was just like, I was unstoppable, nothing, no fear, even was in me. No, I didn't know, because there's things there's things you don't know, and there's things you don't know, but, and then, you get to knock at the door and it's like, what the crap? I mean, your whole life gets turned upside down, and it really affects you. And especially when you're not expecting it. Sometimes you get sucker punched, and, there are sucker punches. And, I'm an amateur boxer, and I'm an amateur boxer. I bring that up because, I wasn't expecting the hit. And a lot of times we anticipate things, you can pay attention, you see it coming, you're going to, you're going to anticipate it, maybe move into it, or you're going to get away from it, or, whatever it is. But there are times when you're not looking, kind of like in a street fight, right? Because I used to be a target in high school. Like, everybody wanted to fight me for some stupid reason. And, there's a moment when somebody comes and punches you in the back of the head. You don't see it. You didn't expect it. And that's, but the thing is, you got to get up and you got to keep on moving forward. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer, because sometimes that punch is pretty hard. But the fact is getting back on there. And that's, for me, that's what it was, just getting back in the saddle. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer for some people because, you get to this position of, kind of looking over your shoulder all the time, saying no more than you should, and getting to the point where, and that's one thing I got to practice with myself now, just because of, whether it's the longevity. I mean, when I first started, I didn't have gray hair. Now I've got gray hair. And throughout that, you just got to say to yourself, like, you know what, I just got to start saying yes a little bit more. I've got to, go drive into faith. And have faith in my own abilities, knowing that, hey, I did it once, I could go do it again. It's not or, hey, let me look at everything. Here's what went right. Here's what went wrong. How can I fix it so it doesn't happen again? Because, that's the biggest thing is, like you said, there's, nothing but feedback. You're getting that feedback back there, but you got to analyze it and say, okay, here's what went right. Here's what went wrong. Here's how to fix it. Let's move forward and let's knock this thing out. Let's redesign our life in the way that we want to, we want it to be.
And what are some of the biggest, golden nuggets you've learned along the way that, you've seen that you've actually put in place? And one of the things that I really have learned from you is we talk about that, whether it's, it's basically being steel or being plastic, and how, like, you really come from a place of talking from a place of, like, the steel, like, this is what I know and I'm going to stay in that lane. And then, like, you see a lot of people out there in the marketplace, especially in the online space, they're constantly, you get a couple levels deep into their knowledge base, and all of a sudden you realize they kind of melt like plastic, but they don't even know what they're talking about. So that's one of the things that I've kind of learned from you, is really question people on the 30 on how much they actually know on a subject. And I'd like you to kind of shed some light for some people out there on like how they could avoid possibly hiring the wrong person or getting into the right program. I know that's one of the things we have inside the mastermind is in order to speak on that topic, what you'll do is like if somebody asks a question about, hey, how to build a continuity program? And Matt's like, all right, everybody raise your hand to build a continuity program. And if you haven't built a continuity program, then shut up. So, I mean, that's some of the advice I take away from you when it comes to that.
Well, I think here is the thing that we got to look at. I think we got to look at from, especially, because there's a lot of people that are and you hit on it, like, there are some people in this world, and this is one thing that's kind of scary for a lot of people when they're looking at somebody to, work with, and it doesn't matter where they are, but if they've never been through the ups and downs, that's scary. It really is. I was just on a webinar last night. I was just talking to one of my neighbor, I moved, but he used to live at the country club. I was talking to him right before we got on this call for about an hour. And I was like, yeah, I was on this guy's call. We've both been marketing online since 1999. And and I'm like, yeah, there's a guy who got started in 2012. It looks like he's, it's like, and it's fine. That's cool. And all the stuff he was showing me, but I'm like, I wonder if he's been through, if he's been through that cycle, because a lot of people cycle, and I would rather learn from somebody that's cycled a couple times, than I would somebody that's never cycled, because they can't foresee the road, these landmines that are coming at us. They don't know, and they're going, and everything's working, and then all of a sudden they have an experience, like especially on the internet. Like the internet changes, like every time you fart, the internet changes. So it's like, whoa, what, like people don't realize that. When I first started, there was no Can Spam Act. Can Spam Act came out, I think, 2003. You have to change you got to move, you got to adapt, and if people are running a strategy today, and that's great, and it's awesome, and it works today, but what you got to prepare yourself to say, hey, what are the fundamental things, and people that have like, hey, look, this strategy is going to work. They can foresee, like, hey, I'm going to hit this hard, and I'm going to ride it out as long as it's going to have. But I'm going to be able to see the moment that this thing's going to die off, and I'm going to move to, be able to move and adjust to that. And it's one thing that there's a lot of these I see sometimes, and I just worry, because it's like, no, how do you know? How do you know if nobody's been through it? They've never seen, the change in the marketplace. Facebook changes, like, Facebook change, or, Facebook came out, I remember when that happened, or Twitter came out, all this stuff, you don't foresee that, hey, things will change. You've got to adapt, you've got to mold, you've got to do that, but you've got to be around people that have had that experience, like that are more wiser, so they can foresee, like, hey, look, I've done that before. And when I did that, here's what happened, and here's how, here's some roadblocks to overcome, and here's some things to make sure that you don't end up to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, or you want to end up being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, no, absolutely correct. It's all about being ahead of the game, and that's one of the things when you're actually doing it, rather than just talking about it. A lot of people go out there and sell these programs, but they're selling older, outdated strategies that possibly don't even make sense anymore. So I've seen that a lot with recycled information, or they'll have this like one-hit wonder around a certain product, and hey, I made all this money online, but then all of a sudden, what have you done in the last couple of years? And if they just made money selling their course and product, then you really want to question yourself: is that somebody you want to go out and work with? I was speaking with Michael Devlin yesterday. He's an amazing entrepreneur, and he was sharing with me, he's currently out there still selling 7-figure brands and creating these brands and then going out and selling them. And that's why he's been able to do that with his mastermind. And I know, Matt, you focus on helping, speakers, authors, coaches like myself, grow our businesses. What are some golden nuggets for somebody that's in that space that you've been able to utilize for yourself and grow your email marketing, your list? And then what are some things that have worked for you right now? That possibly that somebody could take in action, like today, they can take it and then run with it.
Well, I'll give you one that really affected. Even David Asano says, he's part of the mastermind, and I just saw that he just got all these great rewards because of creating some amazing funnels. And one thing I said to him, and he says, like, this one thing really, changed my mindset. And I have it written over here. It says, my energy goes where the money flows. And you've got to be able to, when it comes down to business, when we look at business, we got to pay attention to numbers, and the numbers don't lie. The numbers tell us stories. And so we want to look at that, whatever aspect I love. I've kind of gotten probably sometimes too deep, gone down a rabbit hole of split testing, sometimes way too much, more than I probably should, because sometimes it hinders me getting things out. But I bring that up because, you've got to pay attention where the money, where your energy should go, where the money flows. And as if you've got something that's really working, you've got to analyze that. You got to hone in on that, and you got to just make it more, because I guarantee you haven't scaled to the point where you want it to be. A lot of times, I'll give you an example of, well, I won't name the name, because one of the mastermind members was doing really well, or is doing really well, crushing it in the e-commerce space. And I was like, and he's like got all these things. And I said, you got all these things going on. I said, what are the top 3 things that are making you the most money? And I said, let's go analyze all your products right now. Let's see what you got, and let's just see. And he found that there are 3 products that are making him all the money. And I said, good. Why don't we focus our energy on those 3 things? Because you're going to make tons more money than you are going to try to be piddling around with things that aren't working. Like I said, so let your energy flow. Where the money goes, or where the money's at, and where you see the money, and where you can account for it. And it's a lot of times it's accounted for in your in your dad, and a lot of times it's accounted for in your and from there, wherever you're looking, but really the end result, especially when it comes to businesses, in your bank account.
Mm-hmm. So follow the money. And one of the things I love that you taught us was that your wallet never lies. People, buyers are liars, but wallets don't ever lie. So a lot of people will go out there and they'll spend 80% of their time working on the unquote product, perfecting it, this or that or whatever, but they never actually finish completing it. And another thing is just having a team out there to help you. I know the things I've learned from Nick James from the group, and also Ben from the group. And, he was instrumental for helping me, along with David and stuff like that from the group again, are just instrumental for helping me grow my business. So just, being around those type of people has really changed the game for me. And I thank Matt for helping bring those people together with the Profit Coalition. I look forward to next month. We're going to be getting together here in just about 2 through 3 weeks now. So I'm going to have my numbers in line for once. Ready to go, and I'm like, all right, Matt, here's what I'm doing.
Yeah, you get your funnel. Well, dude, I will say that it was really good. I was looking at, I don't know if you got the video that I made for you yesterday, because I was analyzing your whole funnel. There's some things in there that we could make a little bit better. But you know what? The great thing is, here's an important thing for everybody to pay attention to. If you have nothing to look at, then you can get no feedback. If there's nothing, it's great, because actually I have on my board, it says, I don't want words, I want action. So it's when you're in action, you're creating stuff and you make stuff happen, and you've got these funnels, it's easier. Nobody can, it's hey, I've got this idea. Okay, great. Because the idea can change, and I think it's interesting, because what happens is when you can have it on paper and you can write it down and it's all written out on paper, which is great. But when you put it down, especially on the internet, when you put it down, you have the funnel. It's now you can really go through it and you can test it out, make sure it's working. You can see all the kinks. That's when the real fun begins. And then you start sending the traffic through it. Getting hey, look, everybody's getting stopped here. What the hell is making this happen? Okay, great. Let's go look at that. Let's figure out what the heck's doing this. Maybe we need to, add something here. Or maybe there could be a problem. It could be a little thing that maybe you don't see that other people see. Then you get other eyes on it to be able to make that happen. And that's one of the things that I've, found that works really well is getting shit done. I was on a podcast the other day, a Tillman's podcast the other day. It was getting shit done. We were talking about things you do to get shit done. But yeah. So, but I bring that up because it is important to really be able to put something out there so that you can get some feedback on it, and and don't be afraid and don't get emotionally attached. One of the things that I find that a lot of people do is they get so emotionally attached to things. When it could be erased. I think when it comes to entrepreneurs, what I found is we talked in 3 different types of languages. Entrepreneurs, and if you guys are, this might be worth writing down or put this in the back of your head, because there's 3 different languages that we speak in. We speak in pencil, we speak in pen, and we speak in marker. And entrepreneurs do this all the time, and that's what drives my wife nuts, because I need to be clear, because it was my wife's oh, you got all these ideas. I'm I should have told you that was in pencil. That was not in marker. That was not, it's in marker, that means I'm going to actually go out and I'm going to bust my butt. I'm going to take action. I'm going to get it done, and nothing's going to stop me because I'm going to keep on honing this thing in until it's done, until it's working. And then even when it's working, I'm going to go get other eyes on it and make it even work even better. But I say that because some people talk in pen, or pencil, where it's always getting erased. And, you want to move from a pencil perspective to pen. And then once you get the thing honed in, now you can move it to marker. Now you can make some slight edits to it. Now you've got something you could truly scale, truly get bigger. But recently, and I'm not trying to, because I've been in the entrepreneurial world. So
there's the fourth world, right?
There is the fourth one because I started playing around a little bit in the corporate space, right? And working with people in corporate America. Well, I learned that they use a different language sometimes outside of entrepreneurial language, which is pen, pencil, and marker. They use this thing called invisible ink. and it's kind of one of those things. It's like, this was the conversation, and you might find people in your life that speak in invisible ink. It's like, let's move it to, and as long as we clear, like, hey, we're talking in invisible ink, like we have to get one of those special lights to shine on what the heck was actually said. Because I had it down in pencil, I had it down in marker, I had it down in, so you got to be clear. And that's one thing that I've always said is, where are we at with this? Are we in pencil? Are we in pen? Are we in marker? Or was this just invisible ink? I need to know, because I like to move to marker. I like to go to marker. And once I'm in marketer, or once I'm in marker, there's nothing stopping me from going forward, except for if the other guy's in, especially I'm doing something to somebody, the other person's in invisible ink.
Yeah, that was definitely an insight you shared with us at the last mastermind. So Matt, tell us about, you got a new book coming out, Everyday Heroes. I was in Everyday Heroes 1, and you've got Everyday Heroes 2. Tell us about, the purpose of the book and how you're helping people get their stories shared with the world.
Yeah, it's just a great book to get people. It's motivational. It's motivational, it's inspirational stories that I've collected together, and put them out there so people can go through and know that in life. I didn't realize I'm seeing myself now. It's like flipping over, and my hands are moving a lot more than I thought. But I bring that up because we do need that in our life. We do need to have that. Like some, looking at like, hey, look, I'm not the biggest. I might have made some mistakes, but other people's mistakes are a little bigger. And I'll talk about you, for example, because you said you comparing my life to yours, and this should help everybody here. And if you guys are in the military, if you guys are in the Army, or any part of the military and served our country, and you've been around where you've seen your fellow people that are in your group die, like something's different. Like, when I look at the things that we talked about a little bit earlier about my life and how my business had, I had this up and I had this down and I went through ups and downs. But when you look at like, hey, look, I'm still alive. Like I when I take a shower, I feel the water, I feel it. I know I'm still here. And so when you sit back and you're like, you can look at these other people and you look at the challenges they have in their life, or that they things like that. It's like, man, or the things that people that have lived through, stuff that you could never say, like, man, comparing to my big thing in my mind, my thing is small. And I bring that up for a lot of people to realize, like, we got to take in consideration what we think is this huge thing. Sometimes it's very small. And that's why it is good to get around people, when you're around somebody and you're like, kind of open up. Sometimes we're very scared to like say, here's my challenge. Here's what I'm going through right now. I was talking to, Sean. I called him because I said, it's interesting because, we've made this move. I moved from the country club, moved down to Peachtree City. Now where the grass, I jokingly say the grass is green and the golf carts are pretty, because we got 30,000 people that live here. We got, there's 10,000 golf carts. People drive around in golf carts everywhere. And we got a golf cart, and you drive around, and I drive everywhere. And I go to eat. It's crazy. And and so we did this total country club to golf cart community flip, change. And so at the beginning it was like this. It was like a relationship. And a lot of times we go through this in our life. And I was thinking about this, and I said to him, I said, because he used to be one of my neighbors at the country club, and I said, when we first did it, I was like, man, this is the most amazing thing in the world. I'm so excited. And then it went from like, did I make the right decision? Like after a couple of months, it was like, did we make the right decision? Is this the right thing to do? And then you come back in, and it's like, then I fell in love with it again. And it's kind of like, it's kind of like relationships. It's kind of like things, like that. It's kind of like your business. Maybe you can relate to your business. It's like, when I first got in, I'm so excited. Like, this was going to be the thing. I was going to go help all these people. I was going to do all these things. And then you come back and you say, was this really what I wanted? Like, you start realizing, like, real life hits in, and it's like, oh my gosh, if you're doing coaching, oh my gosh, like, I've got to talk to these people. Oh my gosh, I've got to actually, follow. I got to, whatever it is, I don't know, but, or, hey, I've got to, I promised with the product that I was going to do so much, the calls, I've got to do them, because you've got to do it. And then you start falling out of love, and then all of a sudden you look again, and you've got to just realize, like, hey, I think every decision was made for a reason, and there's probably a bigger reason than you think that those decisions were made. Because I look at, going into, we were talking about, I said, look at my kids, and like, they're happy. My son just said he had the best, yesterday he made a comment. He goes, I had more fun today than I had the last 5 years. It's like, this was why we did it, and so. The same thing, like with, in the mastermind group, like last time in the mastermind group, 2 of the members said, I had the best, since the last meeting, I have had the best, I've had bigger results than I've ever had. It was the best months of my business. And hearing stuff like that, that's like, man, that's why I'm doing this. I love it when I hear that. Like, that gets.
And they were the happiest months, and they were happy in what they were doing. That was the key moment. I think it's really important. What Matt's talking about here, gold nugget, is you better love what you do, because when you love what you do and you're really good at it, you're going to get more of it, because that's what you're focused on. And that's what Matt was able to, and collectively in the group, the people that, were in our group got, we don't really hold punches back, and really, because we love each other and we want to help each other and serve each other. So it's just basically just firing shots at each other's businesses, and it enabled, me to get some feedback. And some of this, and I'm like, I got a thick skin. I'm like, all right, let it on me, guys. And that's one of the things. It's cool, is because it's not just Matt hammering me; it's everybody in the group hammering me all at the same time about whatever it is I'm doing. So it's getting that feedback from the group is always huge. So guys, if you have questions too that are live here, I know we got Paul on and Ryan and Anthony. If you guys have any questions, fire them out on Facebook here, guys. I can see the questions. I'll ask those to Matt. So Matt, what's the current big project you're working on right now? I know you always got your hands in something.
Well, there's a big project I'm actually there. I do have something really big, and it has to do with some people I'm working with. I mean, it's bigger than the internet marketing space. It's bigger than all this stuff. I actually haven't really been talking about it, but I'm totally excited about it. It was a project. It was an idea that I had back in college, sitting in the dorm room with one of the guys. So I had the secret life in college. So I was not only just in a fraternity, I was, so I was a frat boy, but I also was hung out with some kids that were very, very smart. One of the guys actually developed, I think it was Windows 90. He was working on the Windows 98 project, 95 project actually, I believe it was. And the other guy that was with me in the dorm room was a guy. His name was Myung. His dad was the ambassador for South Korea, and this guy is a freaking brilliant kid. I mean, he graduated from the economics school in less than 3 years, 2 years actually, I believe. And actually, they sent him off to Chicago to get in a bubble. Anyway, I've reconnected with a couple of the guys, and I said, "Remember that project that I talked to you guys about? I'm very excited. I think remember back then you guys were like, this doesn't even make sense." I said, it makes sense today. Let's reevaluate this. Let's look at this, because honestly, today, looking at social media, looking at all this stuff, looking at everything that's going on in the marketplace, I think the market can take this concept. So there's this new Silicon Valley thing that's possibly occurring, and so I do the IM space. I actually don't want to get into that side of it, because it's a whole new world that it's going to be crazy. When, let's just say this, not if, but when things come to fruition, it's been sitting in the back of my head, and it's like, I sat down and I said, you know what, this is always the one thing I kept on coming back to over the years, despite all the things that I've done. This is the one thing I keep on coming back to. If, I die tomorrow, if I don't do this, then, if I don't even pursue this, then, I don't feel like I'm going to live. I lived. So And so that's actually something to bring up for a lot of people is, what for you has there, you sitting down like, you know what, if I don't do this, whether it is something in your business or whatever, like, I should do it now because you never know, what tomorrow is going to look like. And so, so there's this thing that I'm working on. Outside of that, I do have this project that I'm working on in the IM space or in the information space, where we are getting a bunch of people in, and we're getting ready to launch in a couple weeks after the mastermind meeting. Going to launch. I'm really excited about the people in the book. It's going to be very inspiring for a lot of people. We're going to raise a lot of money for charity, and do a lot of great stuff there. And that's one thing, is a lot of times just giving some people some feedback is one thing. One thing in life is also giving back. I don't want to make this, because it's not just about making money, but it's also about giving back. And if you can find something that you can give, give back with little or small, it's kind of one. It feels great. But two, from a money perspective, it also does help sell a lot of stuff, especially when people knowing that it's going to a good cause, not just going up somebody's nose or, going to a bunch of hookers.
So that speaking about charity and kids.
I want to make it fun. Somebody wrote. I watched somebody just write something that it was very inspiring, or interesting, and entertaining. So I figured, let me just add a little more entertainment to this. I was like, how could I do that? How could I do that really quick?
Some strippers, huh? So tell us about the charity and how you actually came up with it, and why you came up with it in the first place, the one you created.
Well, no, for this particular project, actually, we are having the co-authors inside the book are coming together, and they're going to pick the charity. I want it kind of like, hey, we're going to pick the charity. Last time we did it, I kind of chose the charity, the charity that we did. This time, I'm doing it. I'm kind of letting the people decide, because what we found on the last one was it wasn't related to everybody international. It was very geographical specific, and so that's one thing that everybody loves helping charities, but we also, I want to make it more broader for this, because we have people from all over the world that are part of the book. So, from there. So, just to bring that up.
What's the charity that you created, though, Matt, that I want to just highlight with everybody? And why did you come up with that?
Legacy Bound is really just it's a charity that I'm kind of skirting over that, just because going through the process of 501c3 and going through the process of doing the whole thing and the attorneys and everything else has been very frustrating. It's like one of those things like we were talking about a little earlier, but a little bit earlier about, like, sometimes you have some setbacks. Well, there's been a huge setback in there. So it's kind of like a sore spot with me, is like, I have this charity that I've been working on, and I've got punched in the gut a couple times over that. So, but the bottom line is, I really do. One of the things that I've always inspired to do is helping children just like myself, that have this entrepreneurial mindset, have this entrepreneurial spirit, that want to be entrepreneurs, but they don't have the people around them to support them in being that. And I know as a kid, it was kind of one of those things. I thought it was crazy. I don't know if you guys, maybe I went through all life until I graduated college, and even after college, thinking, I'm crazy, until I started going to events and starting meeting people that are in the community. That's kind of why I fell into information businesses, because I'm like, wow, this is the family I never had. These people have the same aspirations. They have the same dreams. They have the same goals. They want to, they're real entrepreneurs in the world. When I'm hanging out with a bunch of people that are, where I grew up in Ohio, everybody worked in the steel mill. Now where we live right now, everybody a lot of people around here, they work for Delta, or they work for, different things like that, because Delta's huge. We're not too far from the airport. But so, I always dreamed when I was a kid that one day I was going to go work in the steel mill. I really thought that. I thought that until we moved, that one day I was going to move into, work in the steel mill. But I like, what is, but I'm different, and I'm different than others. I want to go out there. I like selling things. I enjoy selling things. I enjoy being an entrepreneur. I enjoy being able to, making that sale and, closing a deal. Like I just closed one just a little while ago, and it's like, whew, and I called my wife. I was like, yes, go check it. I just move some more money over to PayPal, so, so those are fun. Those are little victories. I mean, it's not just the ongoing, ongoing sales, but it's also, there's little victories, because they're fun, and they, it's just like, it feeds you. Actually, in the office I'm at right now, he's on vacation because our whole everywhere we're at right now, everybody's on vacation here. And so, but he's on vacation. But, it's like I hear him coming out of this room. It's like, yeah, I nailed it. And it's like, yes, I like being around, other entrepreneurs that are just crushing it and that are doing things, or even, that are sharing their victories as those things happen.
So Matt, one of the things that I love that you shared with us several times is you are entrepreneur hardcore, but your kids have seen you and grew up around that. And how has that affected your family culture? And one of the things is tell a story about the Amazon with your oldest daughter and how she bought her computer. That one really stuck in my mind. And also about your kids. I mean, they've been entrepreneurs. That's all they know, and what they're doing now.
Yeah, I would say my girls are more, well, actually, my oldest daughter is interesting because my oldest daughter, one day, I remember I was sitting there in bed and my daughter said, you know what, I want a new laptop. So I'm sitting there, I was like, okay, let's go down to the store. I was going to go down to Fry's. Let's run over to Fry's. I'll get you a laptop. She's like, no. You teach all these people how to make money. Why don't you teach me how to make money? And I want to make money for my own laptop. I was like, okay, I'm not going to say no to that. I said, I'll tell you what, here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to write a list of, here's what I want you to do step by step, exactly what I want you to do. I'm going to hand you this list. I want you to implement this list. Now I charge, a lot of money for my time. So I'm not going to charge you for my time, but what I am going to do is, and I said to her straight off, I said, here's the deal we're going to make. When this works, when this is successful, I want you to allow me to record this, everything that you do, so that we can share this with the world, and I'm going to get my money out of it. And she's like, okay. So literally what she did was she went out, she started selling stuff. She was selling stuff on Amazon, left and right. Within 30 days, she ended up making enough money for her laptop. Now the story still continues. All of a sudden, she turns off her account. And I'm like, what the heck? You make more money than any kid in your whole class, probably in the whole school. Like, why are you doing this? And this was an interesting thing for me because I remember, because I had a hard time with this. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I was so excited, like, yes, my daughter, and she said to me, she's like,
11 at the time.
She was 11. Now she's in college. But yeah, she said to me, she's like, well, I got my laptop. I'm like, and I asked somebody, and I'm like, what the crap? Like, it was driving me nuts. And a few people were like, yeah, it would drive me nuts too. Why don't you push her? And I'm like, you know what? I learned if I push her too hard, she's not going to do anything. She's going to do the total opposite. So I'm not going to push her. But they said something to me. He said, sometimes you set goals and you hit them. And many people set goals, they overtop their goals, and they never reassess and say, you know what, I did that. Now let me move on and do something else. And I'm like, whoa, like, that's strong for me. Like, I never thought of that. Like, and so that was a big thing. Now, the cool thing is that, later on I said to her, well, while in the midst of that, when she made her first sale, I recorded it. When she, so I started recording and documenting the whole thing. I ended up selling, we did like $250,000, $500,000 actually, I think. We sold $500,000 of that program. I got my money back tenfold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold. And so it was a crazy thing.
Awesome. But
I will say this, my mom made a comment the other day, and she said, my middle daughter, she said, man, my daughter, he goes, Madison, and he said, she's just like you. I said, what do you mean? And I thought she was going to say something radically different. She goes, no, I took her to the thrift store, and she goes, she grabbed my phone. She downloaded an app. She was snapping and looking at the prices, everything, figure out what she can actually sell to make money on. And I'm like, you serious? She goes, she taught me things on YouTube and taught me things on, like all this other stuff. And she's like, she taught me how to do all this stuff. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So anyways, she came home with a whole bag of stuff that she's going to sell because because the profit margin is so huge on what she got. And so she's listing that. And she just told me this morning, she's like, I listed it all. I'm ready to go. There's a couple things she had to throw out because she did it wrong, but she was like, well, we're going to donate it. So we're going to redonate it. But it's crazy.
You're going to donate it so it gets a tax write-off, and then she's going to make money with it.
Yeah. So donate the things that she just can't list, but that make no sense whatsoever. But yeah, so I mean, my son's a little different. My son's not as like, hey, let me figure out how to make money. My son is the money man. My son will literally be there, like, he'll like, give me the money. Like, it's funny. They ran this lemonade stand, and they would go out there. I mean, they made all this lemonade. They sold out. They literally sold out within hours. This was like last year, and they like came back like each one $60, made like $120. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is crazy. And they like, we're going to go eat more. I said, well, before you do, I said, go put up a sold out sign. We're coming back. And I said, just put up sold out and let everybody know you sold it out, and then say, we'll be back, because then it's going to anticipate, more people anticipate. I swear they had another drove. But my daughter would go make it and hand it over to them. And I told him, like, always, shake and wave and focus on the customer. So if you focus on the customer and don't worry about anybody else, they're going to start piling up, and swear to it. Like, people just start piling up. And, they, like, lining up to get it. And I said, focus on the customer, tell them thank you. And say, I bring that up because my son would walk over and was like, can I have the money? Like, he would charge him, get the money. So he's the money man. Kind of like my wife and my daughter's out there just, servicing the customer. And my son's like, I'm gonna get the money, go put it in my basket or whatever, a bag or whatever he was using.
So I had a question coming from Phil. The question is, has Matt's rate always been 10K or looking into someone else's businesses? How did he set his rates when he first started out? So like, how did you, Matt, come up with the amount you charge for your time and stuff like that? I think what she's actually asking, because she's kind of starting out in her business and stuff like that. Like, how do you know what to charge for your services? If somebody's just kind of starting on their business. And I know for myself personally, when I first started getting in my business, when people were asking me, it was like kind of like all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, they want to buy my time. And I didn't know how to come up with a number behind that. So I think it's going to be different based on like where you're at, obviously, in business. I know for my time, it's also very, very expensive because of the value I've been able to deliver for my clients. I think I've seen people, have shifts in their business to go from 500, from their largest sale of $750 to now they're charging $30,000 for the same program. Just based on the mindset side of things, they've actually changed in their business and have, go from, I don't know, 5,000 a month to like $1 million, in their businesses.
Yeah.
So I think, you've done a lot of that as well. So how would you, if somebody's just starting on their business, what advice would you give them?
Well, let me answer that secondly. For for somebody starting out. So for me, when I first came up with my original rates when I was charging to do it, actually it's still, if you go to consult with Matt, it's actually 20,000. It's 10, but I have it down at 10 right now because it's really what the market bears. So we got to look at that. However, how I originally came up with the number, it was, I take how much money I'm making that year, and I divided my hours, and I figured, out the how much money that my time was worth. So basically, depending on where you're at, and some people say, hey, the going rate for certain things, and there's different things. But for me, when I originally came out with my numbers, it was like, here's how much money I'm making. Here's how much my time. If I move away from my business and don't focus on my business, here's how much money it's going to cost me. Here's how much money that would be. And so that's kind of how I came up with my first rate. So you kind of divided out the average work week, because I don't work the average hours, but if I took the average work week of an average person, then, and the amount of money they made, that year, and that's how I divided and figured out the money I was charging at the time. And then that created a baseline. So now it's like, look, I usually charge $20,000. How am I going to give it to you for 10? And it doesn't go any lower than that. So, you can lock it in, or if you tell me tomorrow, it's going to go back to the 20,000. So that's kind of how I came up with it. Now, if you're starting off, I think it really depends on your market, your niche. You got to look at and I don't think it's just the market niche. I think it's what you just said. It's, do you know in your heart of hearts, for you, like, do you know in the heart of hearts, that is, what your value is. Unfortunately, the people in this world sometimes value themselves way too much, and so you want to make it's one of those things. You want to, you've got to value yourself, and if you don't value yourself, then your number is going to be lower, and then your bank account's going to be lower. But if you do value yourself and you value the knowledge and expertise and everything else, now after a while, especially once you have the track record like you have, then you can always raise your price, or you can actually say, you know what? Because for me, one thing that I'm telling people a lot lately is because there's a lot of strategies that I want people to do, that's going to cost you some money to do. And so I want you to be able to take that other half of the money and go invest it back in your traffic and back in here. So if you look at it from that perspective, like, I'm going to tell you some stuff, and I'm going to want you to be clear that I want you to be able to dedicate the rest of the money, the other $10,000, and put it back in your business so you can go out and do marketing. You can go do the advertising. You go spend the money and from there. And that's kind of, the thing. But like I said, when you're starting out, I mean, it's one of those things. Go look at whatever. I would say I don't want you to be the standard, or look at what status quo or whatever everybody else is doing. I hate that, but it is a good baseline to kind of say, here's what everybody's doing that can deliver the same results that I'm delivering. From there, but you got to be clear. Is if you position yourself like a, like a crappy car, or like a Pinto, then that's that's the clients you're gonna attract. If you position yourself like a Lamborghini, you get a Lamborghini, you give them a discount on it, but but the thing is, that's what people are gonna, in their minds, they're gonna have. And the interesting thing is about pricing, is the lower people that spend the cheaper, the people that spend less money are the bigger pains in the butt. People that invest more money are easier to deal with. But you also want to put it in a position where you're not taking advantage. There's other people who say, hey, you should go charge $100,000. You can charge it. I don't play by that game in a sense of, hey, I want people to come back. I want people to be able to, it's like because a lot of times here's the biggest problem when it comes to your pricing. It is it's like sometimes it's front end loaded, meaning you might deliver all the value up front. So you want to be careful where they, because sometimes it's not long lasting. You want to be able to, be cognizant of it. And after you have some more experience, you'll realize like, hey, look, I want to be able to work with these people for a longer term. I'd rather have, customers for life than a one-time thing where I'm never going to see them again.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. And again, guys, it's going to dictate based on what you feel personally, first of all, about your value you can bring to the marketplace. But you also want to evaluate the marketplace and say, hey, if the going rate is average around this, let's say you're in the personal trainer space, right? You keep it really simple. And most personal trainers charge $50 to $100 or something like that. And if you all of a sudden come out and say, hey, I'm going to charge you, $5,000 for the day to be your personal trainer, there you might be pricing yourself out of the market. It's a lot less people could afford, investing in a personal trainer for the day to do that. I mean, then you have to get clients like Tony Robbins who are going to come in and be your client, but how many Tony Robbins are there? So you want to look at that, demand versus supply when it comes to it. One of the questions that I had here, Matt, was for any business, when you're starting a business, people have their personal email list. Would you suggest sending out your first email blast to everyone you know? Or would you suggest possibly segmenting the list of emails you have when you get started?
I'm actually reading that right now, so I want to just make sure I got it. So when starting your business, what do you suggest? Sending an email to everyone you know? That's kind of throwing me off. Not everybody I know. I wouldn't do that. It's kind of one of those things. I personally like to stay away from my friends and family. In a sense, because here's the thing. My wife and I talked about this the other day. This is an interesting distinction that I had a long time ago. I forgot about and I've remembered. And the distinction is is crossing the friend line. I bring that up because it's not really going to answer this, but it's going to answer this. Because if you think about this, if you say to somebody, hey, I'm moving, or hey, can you come over and help me move? Everybody says they're going to come over and do it. When the time comes, they're not going to go do it. But if, so there's this friend line, and you want to be careful of, who because your friends aren't going to pay you. Your friends don't pay you. So you want to be careful. There's that fine line of, not saying that it doesn't happen, but I'm just saying you want to be careful about that, crossing that line, because you want to create those relationships, keep those relationships with friends. That's why a lot of people in network marketing, they burn out their, they hit up their friends, they hit up the family, everybody else. I would be very clear. You could look at them for getting referrals and recommending people, but I think you want to be careful about trying to, crossing that line where you could hurt your relationship from that. So I would strongly recommend you create a segment, you create a list that you're focusing on with new people, from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big things you kind of also talked about is growing that tribe-based effect. And you've got your friends, your kind of the close people in your network, but then you also have the people that are following you on Facebook and all these other social media places, as well as your email list. I mean, you've grown email list to 1 million+ people. They're constantly following stuff you're actually doing. So that's also very important, is because you've got that distinction between, all right, these are people that it's a business connection, and these are people that are like those personal friends when it comes down to that. And I find that that's one of those fine lines that I walk a lot of times too, because I go out and meet a lot of people and stuff like that. And then when I have people switch from entering that space where like, all right, they want some personal help on getting over some kind of fear, anxiety, or getting some kind of money mindset side of things where they're getting out of that, then I feel it's one of those things where it's important to distinguish, letting them know, okay, great, you're entering my office or my time at that point. And I find that it's also very important to protect your time, with keeping kind of like gatekeepers in a way around it, because otherwise, you get random calls and people just want to start talking to you, and they don't think you have anything to do because, oh, well, you just work from your own office, so you have nothing else to do. And I'm like, dude, I work, way more than you do. And let me call you at 2 a.m. when I finish, and then we'll have a conversation about your 10-minute thing.
Yeah.
That sound familiar?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, but you also got to understand yourself. I think it's really big, and everything you're doing is kind of understanding yourself. Like, when it comes to time, like mine, I'm a little, sometimes I get too generous of my time. That's why I like having somebody, nagging me and say, Matt, it's time to get off. Like, for example, Bill Glazer, I was in Kennedy Glazer, Bill and I, he has, Sherry, I think, she was at Russell's thing, but but she, would always be like, Bill, it's time to get off, because there's sometimes people we we overdo it. And, you gotta be able to, some people that's what makes them great people. They don't know how to set boundaries. They don't know how to, but they're very social, but they just they don't have these hard set lines like, hey, look, it's time to get off.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to know.
Speaking of time to get off.
Yeah.
Okay. So speaking of time to get off, guys, it's time to get off. So if you have any parting shots or questions, feel free to post them below, and I'll be happy to answer them the best I can. Matt, it's a pleasure having you on today. What's the best way for somebody to get in touch with you, Matt? Through like social media, or is it through you have a website you want to tell them to go to where they can learn more information about you and possibly some of the books you've actually done, so they can get their hands on some of the books we have out here? Well, like Everyday Heroes, Yeah,
just go to Facebook. You can find my fan page over there. I think that'd be the best thing to do. Sign up. Follow me over there. It'd be a great place to do. I think probably the best thing at this moment.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate you coming on, brother.
All right. Thanks, man.